Okay.
Attention, please.
Yo. 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 Yo.
Welcome to your Inspirational Astrology Horoscope for Monday, May 12th, 2025. I'm Astrologer Dave Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, thanks so much for being a part of HighVibe.tv. If you are not, make sure that you join right now, of course, where you get all my daily horoscopes, full disclosure, history in the stars, and of course, my famous deep astrology, my weekly astrology forecast on top of all the dailies, and of course, the High Vibe TV School, where you can also premium purchase and have a membership to get access to all my schools, or you can just purchase them individually. I'm actually, as we speak right now, doing Jupiter School, which of course, I'm not calling it a masterclass because you never really do master Jupiter. This is kind of the whole point. So if you've been part of my Saturn masterclass or Pluto masterclass, you know, the first class of 8 was just on Thursday. You can go to highvibe.tv, of course, and you'll find Jupiter School in the High Vibe TV School section. You can either just become a Premium Plus member and always have access to every school, or you could purchase the school individually. It's only $200. I keep all my schools very cheap. And, of course, Hypergate AI has, of course, launched. So if you have not been onto it yet, we have changed astrology forever. There is no astrology app ever to do what we've done with it. Makes all those other astrology apps now, especially when you put in your birth info, look really bad when they're telling you, especially me as a guy, like to wear stilettos, or they just keep it so basic, or they talk just, you know, a couple paragraphs about a transit for 6 months. This is every day. You get to also explore in the craziest of ways. If you go here on my YouTube, if you're on it, you can find a video that we did, Jim and I, my partner in this, where we go over for an hour and a half how to really utilize the new form of astrology with AI. And of course, we launched the beta a year ago, so we haven't been just doing this like as of recent. We've been doing this a long time and training it, and we keep fine-tuning it, and it is now at a level that blows people's minds. And even if you're just an astrologer yourself, this could actually help you in your practice. Or if you're a practicing person that wants to become an astrologer, it could help you in that way too. Or if you're just a connoisseur and you want to know what's going on with your life, or even you and somebody else, or even you and where you're going in the world, it's all there. Finally, it's all been done. Make sure that you check out hypergate.ai. All right, well, I'm here to talk to you on the full moon in Scorpio. And it is definitely one of my more favorite full moons in Scorpio. I actually have some funny images. You know, it's like, guess who predicted the Pope this week? Oh, I did. That's right, I did. So that's me and the Scorpion on the full moon and the conclave afterwards, celebrating the victory. You know, it's kind of crazy because I used mundane astrology to predict in the history the Pope. Still, nobody, even in mainstream world, predicted that that would be the Pope. And it was really simple. I just want to remind people, do your history. If you want to find out more, always watch History in the Stars that Dr. Ann Wilkie and I do every 2 weeks. We don't go off where we want to go in the history. We go off based off the planetary aspects that we are under and going and finding when can we get it as close to possible. And we just keep seeing the history repeat itself in many different ways. So that was all done based off the Pope that died and the new Pope that came in 1534, when we had Pluto at 2 degrees Aquarius and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, like we do right now with Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius and Neptune at now 1 degree of Aries. It was very simple to be able to utilize that. Of course, also look at what that new Pope would energetically be like, and it was an exact heads and tails. It was a Pisces that came in with a Sun Venus back in 1534, and it was a Sun Venus Virgo that would come in and around the same age with nodal aspects. Literally, that's how I predicted it. So not that hard to do, but I don't know. We're still in a weird astrology world where these people are out there doing astrology. And I told my wife the other day, I was like, I've been doing this a long time, and my goal is to help people, number one, illuminate the collective consciousness, but number two, if you gotta be an astrologer that makes your whole living off of it, you better blow people's minds all the time. And I know that could be pressure for a lot of these very sensitive astrologers out there, but that's okay. That's my Scorpio full moon truth out there, right? Because you know what? I have to always come through all the time and blow people's minds, predict this, predict that, predict this. And that is my favorite part of the job. Besides actually running away from a Tyrannosaurus Rex on this full moon in Scorpio. I thought it would be so perfect to have me running around in Jurassic Park on a full moon in Scorpio from the T-Rex that just broke out. So let's talk about this full moon in Scorpio. So of course, if you don't know, I do give out my new moon and full moon horoscopes to the public off of High Vibe. I am streaming, of course, on High Vibe right now too. But I do this to get people to understand what I'm doing out there and what we do at High Vibe, to understand the quality and to understand the depth that we go into horoscopes and astrology and spirituality and every form of that divination that you could think of. But really, it is a network that is based off the core of the astrological understandings. Now, this full moon Scorpio, in very Scorpio fashion, truly is bringing so much closure, endings, for a lot of new beginnings. We've got a lot that's coming up here that this full moon in Scorpio is going to activate and also deactivate in many ways. We have, of course, Pluto that did station retrograde about a week ago. So, it's kind of interesting to see this be the moon in Scorpio full and it be in Pluto sign, and Pluto has now stationed retrograde in Aquarius. But this is a different one. Remember that Pluto stationed retrograde in Aquarius in 2023 and 2024, and this is the third one. The only difference is this is the first time that it's not going back into Capricorn. So we're getting a extra dose and of actual real, what is Pluto retrograde in Aquarius truly like? Because we're not going back into Capricorn. So this one's the first one. And if you actually look in history throughout every Pluto and Aquarius cycle, whether it was the Revolutionary War, whether it was King Henry VIII leaving the Catholic Church, it's always on that third one where things actually start to get intense, right? That's why 2023, 2024, not that it's not that important, but it's kind of a nothing burger in many ways compared to where we are at now. So let's take a look and see here. Of course, I got the chart up for this full moon. Oh, and by the way, I'm just been having so much fun. AI has gotten so much fun. Of course, I do the more hardcore AI, actually build out systems and so forth with astrology and stuff. But as far as thumbnails and even marketing and stuff, if you're still making pictures look like crap, I couldn't even Photoshop this if I tried. To put me in with Indiana Jones in front of with Botticelli's Venus in front of some relic of an old astrology chart. I mean, come on. Although, you know what? We have a new pope now that I predicted, and guess what his biggest fear thing is to make you afraid of is AI. That's so funny. I thought it's no, be afraid of astrology, add AI to the list. I don't know how many other things you need to be afraid of to be a Catholic nowadays, or even a Christian. But I think it's interesting. You're going to see everybody flip and start to be afraid. That was his first address to the world, is to be afraid of AI. Really, really weird. Maybe we might find out more truth about reality that we live in, and they don't want that. So just remember that. Okay. Full moon in Scorpio. I love this full moon in Scorpio because as we go into this understanding of what's really closing down, well, the main thing is going to be Saturn here. Saturn in Pisces. We are going to see Saturn ingress into Aries May 24th. Now, we are going to see Saturn September 1st retrograde back into Pisces, but this is Saturn making its ingress into Aries. We saw Neptune March 31st make its ingress into Aries the first time since all the way back in mid-April of 1861, right? So this is now Saturn, and we have that Saturn-Neptune energy that has been very fooled, I would say, especially with people in very Piscean kind of religious aspect, right? They all think it's the end of the world, all that stuff. And actually, it's more like this new world beginning. Saturn, Neptune are going to meet in Aries. They're not meeting in Pisces. But they came astrologically and astronomically and mathematically the closest that you could ever come to not meeting in a sign. So this is going to be significant, though, because Saturn crossing into the Aries point here in the next couple weeks, very big as far as stepping into where is this whole world going, and even more so the question becomes bigger with Neptune there in Pisces, which we will not see that conjunction become exact, which mathematically I don't even know how this is possible, that we see Neptune go a couple degrees in, and then of course Saturn only make it to that first degree, and then Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, and to see them not conjunct and go back into Pisces together, and then finally come back to meet in February on the 20th of 2026. I mean, wow. So we have to remember that we're in for a lot of shocks too, because this is a full moon, of course, with the sun being in Taurus on its approach to Uranus. And this one is an interesting one because this is your 7th time you've been in Taurus season, 7th year with Uranus and Taurus. We came into Uranus and Taurus back in 2018 in Taurus season. We, of course, went through 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. So actually, this is your 8th time, but really we could say 7 because, you know, we were in Uranus and Aries when we did ingress into Taurus season in 2018. So this is the end also as well, even though it's going to be July 7th, right? That we are going to see Uranus come into Gemini, but we are moving into this air and into this fire ethos, which is going to be ending this water and earth ethos. If you're an air fire sign out there, I know you are just like me and just like we are ready for this extroverted world. We are so over this very sensitive, very calm world. And I know that some people think that this world's been not calm. It has been very calm compared to what's coming. It's going to be loud. It's also where spirit is there for us in the biggest way. We have to find that this is an empowering time. But let's think of what else is going to be coming to a close. Well, it's a full moon Scorpio, like I said, and this one's actually in a yod. So can the yod give us some insight? Of course it can. We've got a quincunx, of course, from the moon to Jupiter in Gemini, which is out of its shadow, and it's expanding here. And you know, it's getting ready to come into Cancer in about a month. It's like about 5 weeks away from coming into Cancer in Gemini season. Really going to be interesting, especially Jupiter here in its detriment. But remember, keeping it simple, don't get lost into trying to say, I already know what's going to happen and so forth about everything in life, unless you're using astrology or fact, right? So I think that this is about the curiosity of like, where can my life go that actually I'm stimulated with? Because what needs to end is what's not stimulating you. And when I mean not stimulating you, I mean on that sense of that honest to good, true stimulation. There's just some things in life that get tired and old and we move on. And that's where, oh, wow, of all of the weirdest things to be in sextile to Jupiter, to form another in conjunction here is Chiron and Aries to that full moon. So the yod that we have here, now Jupiter is the only planet, and in the mythology, of course, Jupiter, Zeus is the only one that can finally bring Chiron his immortality back for the sacrifice he has to make to Prometheus and allow him to be the head of the Centurion gods. And of course, to actually not be in such a horrible position. So I actually see that the biggest ending here is your ego's idea of the way the world should look. This is where the programming has been because really we still are at the end of Saturn here that's in Pisces, and it's going to be coming to the last degree. This anaretic degree is intense, and especially if you want to go way down a rabbit hole with Saturn at the end of Pisces, it is the hardest degree for Saturn, but it gets the most power here in the whole Pisces transit. So anything that needs to come to an end is coming to an end. And we have, at the same token, Venus, which is still in shadow, because that Venus did retrograde really close by at that 10-degree spot right there. So Venus in Aries, in its detriment, with Neptune there, and we've still seen Venus try to catch up. I mean, Venus is coming, a lot faster. We see Venus right now at 46 minutes a day. We're seeing Mars at 29 minutes a day. They're both catching back up to their normal speeds, not anywhere. Well, Mars is getting close, but Venus is not there yet. But it's kind of interesting because Mars is out of its retrograde shadow, and Mars is in Leo at 11 degrees on this full moon, and this is a Mars that's been through a lot. We spent, since really, if you go back to November of 2024, as it was making its way through Cancer, opposing Pluto and Capricorn, and then coming into Leo, and then having a station retrograde, and then have to retrograde and oppose Pluto again, and then go through that horrible Mars retrograde in Cancer at its fall position, and then it literally spent 6 weeks, I know it was at least 4 weeks at the same degree, didn't move, and it took forever to get out. And it's really been just like within these last, 3 weeks here that we've actually seen this Mars as it's opposed Pluto and Aquarius for the first time in thousands of years, to have this same Mars retrograde that actually opposed Pluto and Aquarius. From Aries, or from Leo, from Cancer to Leo, and then Leo direct Mars. It's been like 3,000 something years. This is really where you've seen the world heat up. But what this full moon is saying is what's been heating up is for us to go, we have to look at our emotions. It's a full moon. We're coming to a peak moment here, and it's Scorpio. The moon's at its fall. And it's dispositing Pluto, and Pluto, and being in Aquarius, the only planet retrograde. Remember, we had that little moment where we had all planets direct, but it was with a lot of planets still in shadow from the retrogrades they had been in. And so if you really think about it, this is an interesting full moon because we're in Taurus season. The Sun and Uranus are about to conjunct. Pluto's in Aquarius, so Pluto, of course, being in Uranus' signs, disposits that. So this full moon also in opposition to Uranus. This is all about Uranus. Remember, we are here to raise the vibration through understanding. We have to find ways to understand other people's values while at the same time, it's not like you go out there and you go, you better understand my values too. You just only align with people who are that way. I think that the sacrifice that we have to do here is go get our ego out of the way. Like, stop chasing your ego's kind of wounded issues here. This is where I think the big teardown is here. And it also is spiritually a big teardown with that Saturn that's getting ready to ingress into Aries in the next couple of weeks. It's like, hey, this is Saturn at the end of Pisces. What is not in alignment? Bye-bye. Like, peace out. And this full moon in Scorpio helps. This full moon in Scorpio goes, where are you emotionally just still like holding on to something that you're like, you know what? This isn't, it feels hollow. It doesn't feel like I'm getting much out of it. And so whether it's relationships, projects, I see a major turn for every single person on this planet in their life that they have to pay attention to in their career, in their relationships, in the way that they look at the world, because we have Jupiter and Saturn still in square, and that Jupiter-Saturn square going to be pretty big here as we come into the solstice next month, because of course we're going to see that Jupiter and Saturn square at the beginning of cardinal signs and be the third square, and that's like the biggest turn of a big ship, right? And I think that these are these weeks right now where it's like this full moon is like, what's left? Now, I don't think there's a lot left, meaning you've done the work. I think a lot of people have done the hard work, But it's always funny because it's Pisces. And so it's like that last bit of stuff. It's the stuff that, I try to use as many good examples as I can. One would be like you're moving out of a house and everything's good and the moving trucks moved all the stuff out, but they didn't clean up all the little stuff, or you forgot that you left a trash bag full of trash in that one closet and you forgot that, right? So it's like this is these kind of final cleanups of subconscious attachments emotionally, of like the way you think the world should look, the way you think your life should look, and really allowing yourself, because Uranus here is trying to raise us into a higher calling within our own talents and our own skills. So if you're afraid, example, for AI taking your job, well, then that's a problem, because you are the most amazing soul energy here. That's a computer program, algorithm system that needs computers, and it needs a lot of power, and it can't self-sustain like you can. It's trying to learn from humans. So let's be real here. You're the commodity that has to raise your own value in yourself by trying to utilize, whether it's been a lot of skills, a lot of values that you've been exploring over the years, and how do you bring them all together? This is an amazing moment where in this world, especially with that Neptune in Aries, Pluto Aquarius, and getting ready for Uranus to ingress into Gemini, I mean, the most talented people are the people who utilize what's available to them in front of them in the world, and especially in these energies that are starting to echo. This is about really doing stuff that's never been done before, trying things that you've never done before, really not allowing yourself to fall into the darkness here, especially in feeling in like nothing's going to go the way I want to, right? So it's about ending that, or I always am the one who doesn't get what I want. I'm always the one who never gets the relationship. I'm always the one where my job, it looks like it's going good, and then I don't get the promotion, or I don't get the actual value that I deserve, right? Like these are the stories that people, and not going to be every single person, because there's, 1% of the world that doesn't believe that in themselves. 99% do, though. So majority of people have to look into this and go, where am I still holding on to these crazy kind of like self prophecies that aren't true, of my life's not going to be as good and I'm only going to stay limited in what I can do. I mean, we have to raise the bar. And so this is one where it says, let go. And we have to remember, because there's all these battles right now, and I'm not going to get political because really I'm in the middle, right? There's a lot of weird stuff going on. But, this kind of idea that there's the hierarchies right now, and these people make money and these people don't. We're all at the same starting line in the next couple weeks. Saturn in Aries puts us all back at the same starting line, especially after just having a North Node that was at 0 Aries, right? So we all draconically, collectively had our draconic charts at the same time, having that North Node Aries. And then, of course, we have Saturn that's coming there. We have Neptune there. I mean, the collective right now, and every single person, everybody has the same restart here that's coming. And so this is for you to clear that energy out. Now, where it might be the most weird, and definitely I would say is Venus stuff. And I would say money or relationship situations that are still feeding your ego in an incorrect way. But why? I mean, we have Chiron, right? So it could be like your Band-Aid, like, well, this relationship just makes me feel like I'm worth something in my life, even though they're not. Like a good example would be like Bill Belichick, like, bro, fucking, I don't care whatever she is to you, like you that is weird shit. Okay? Or anything that has shown up in your life new. If you formed any kind of new relationships or projects that you really, and again, these weren't prior to November of 2024, because that's when Venus started to slow down when it was coming through, right? And so as Venus is trying to speed back up and after this full moon come out of shadow, because what are some of the more significant things that are happening between now and Saturn ingressing into Aries and us coming into Gemini season with a new moon as Saturn's coming into Aries, right? That Venus stepping out of shadow. And so I think where this could be kind of that big test here, especially before we're going to see a Venus trine Mars. We've already seen that twice, but that was when they were both, one or the other was retrograde, right? The first one was Mars retrograde in Cancer, and it was Venus in Pisces, right? As it was slowing down, though. And then, of course, when Mars stationed direct, and that was, of course, this couple months ago, like right before, and it was right after Venus had ingressed back into Pisces in retrograde, then there was a trine there. But this trine that's building up over the next week and a half before the Saturn Aries is the other big transit. And so anything that really, in the traditional fashion of very Venus retrograde stuff, that's the stuff that could be the shocker. And the big add-on to this is Mercury. So Mercury in Taurus. Now, remember, Mercury went retrograde in Aries, and then it went back into Pisces. So we've seen Mercury in this Aries back into this Pisces for months as well, right? So we, like, a lot of this is a lot of this old energy that this full moon in Scorpio is like, I'm done with this old energy. Let's move it on. Let's get it out of here. Let's get ready for the excitement of what we can create. We got the planets direct except Pluto now. Saturn's going at least for these next couple degrees more and into a new sign during it. We got Neptune going another degree. We got Uranus that's still got to come into Gemini. Jupiter that's going to come into Cancer with a big square to Saturn, Neptune. I mean, come on. This next 2 months is going to be the big powerhouse of our lives here. So this is where you get yourself in alignment. You get yourself out of a funk because really there's no reason. Like, you're at the closing of so much. But that Mercury in Taurus now has brought this fresh energy, but it's in direct square. Within 2 minutes, I can't even make it up, 3 minutes and 46 seconds. So it's actually 2 seconds, sorry. 2 seconds in geometry in the square. So that is the most tight approaching square you can get. It's actually happening. Mercury square Pluto on this full moon. And so with Pluto being the ruler of Scorpio, and this Mercury, of course, dispositing to Jupiter, which is in quincunx to this full moon in the Yod, I would honestly say that this is like one to where it's like there's going to be the people who really haven't been paying attention, where they just kind of come out and say, I never said this and I need to say it. This could definitely be some very big shocking things in relationships, especially for the ones that were in retrograde and stuff like that, or people who came in during Venus retrograde relationships. That's the kind of stuff where, you know, I'm going to really say what I want to say, or this is where some people are afraid to say certain things, right? And I think that this is also, you know, we've been seeing these Mercury square Plutos ever since we came into Pluto and Aquarius over these last couple of years. To me, it always brings out something that is going to be about this whole different way that this world's going to change. It's totally like making not a lot of sense to how it's going to actually form. And so we could all be in that right now, because that Mercury in Taurus wants to go, okay, where's the basics? Like, where's the water coming from? Where's the soil? Where's the seeds? Where are we planting? What time of season is it? But that square to Pluto and Aquarius is like, well, we've got this robot from China that's showing up here to plan it all, and it uses this weird little language, and it's going to be, what? Right? Like, this Mercury square Pluto is definitely always a message that comes like, and this one I think is really serious. Like, hey, you have to pivot. With the sun being so close to Uranus on this full moon, and Uranus getting ready to come into Gemini as well, we're already, May 12th, right? We're less than 2 months away from Uranus and Gemini, and all three planets within less than a year moving into all new signs. I mean, like, this is very important. We have the sun approaching Uranus for this week of this full moon, but this full moon's already in opposition to it. Pivoting. So whatever you're letting go, it's not really that big a deal because of what you're going into. But some people are not going to want to do it and try and be stuck in a sacrifice themselves moment because they're too afraid to face the pain with that Jupiter and Chiron sextile forming the odd to this full moon in Scorpio. And that's where it could be hard, right? It's like, it's that itch you can't scratch. It's like, well, I know it's not really that good, but I don't want to have to say my truth. Mercury square Pluto retrograde, right? Like really like, you know, you can't be afraid to speak truth right now, especially when it's something that's not feeling right. The things that aren't feeling right are definitely in this area where you feel like you're sacrificing, whether it's for another, sacrificing for yourself, especially around areas with Chiron, where you keep allowing your ego to just feel like it's never going to get what it wants. And that happens a lot with a lot of people, especially ever since 2019 with Chiron making its ingress into Aries, right? Like, nobody feels like they've gotten the way they want things. The whole secret is it's not about what you want. It's about how you show up to things and realize everything's odd. Everything feels warped. Everything feels different. Everything is different. But this is where we find the awesome way that we are evolving for the moment. So no, things are never going back to the way they ever felt. And that's a good thing, because this is the full moon that says, are y'all motherfuckers ready? I mean, what do you want to talk about? We got a Diddy case coming up with a fucking witness disappeared. We got wars in the world. We got fucking the world leaders doing cocaine and getting caught today. I mean, like, you got to be kidding me. In Ukraine, I mean, like, wow. We got a show going on. One of the best shows of all time. And are you going to miss out on it because you're just letting your pea brain little mind here thinks that it really knows the best thing for your own self? Meaning, I'm going to double down. Especially, this is where Eris comes in. I mean, what's weird about this moment for Eris is Chiron's getting ready to make that conjunction to Eris. Now, we're in the same nodal transit as where Eris dethroned Pluto and became the exoplanet that was trans-Neptunian and dethroned Pluto from being a so-called planet from these so-called planetary scientists, right? So we're in the cycle and in the eclipse cycle of that, and here comes Chiron. So there's going to be a couple ways to look at this. Chiron is going to help Eris find its identity, but it feels like an outsider. That 500 plus year orbit around the sun, what Eris represents, right? Eris is in many ways a higher octave of Mars. So that's what's kind of weird, is we already looked at Pluto like that. I think that's more of like the more edge part. But the Eris is the one that wants to throw the fireball in and watch people, fight over who's like literally better than each other. At the same time, it's the Trojan horse. And I think that this is where, the more you allow yourself to, because what's hard with Taurus energy and a full moon in Scorpio, right, is it's so fixed. Plus we're with Pluto in Aquarius and we're with Mars in Leo, right? So we are in a lot of fixed energy right now. It's very, trust me, you're talking to Mr. Fixed. All right. Like my whole chart's fixed except for a couple planets. I could tell you, it's not easy to just like allow something to transform in your life or to let something go. But this is where it's like, do you really want something? The more you keep headbanging into like, I got to keep this relationship that I formed in the last 5 months that came out of nowhere. And they've had weird things go on and blah, blah, blah. Like, are you really going to let that just be you're just like, oh, I'm accepting this as a gift when it's a Trojan horse for something else. Let's not forget that the return of Eris to 25 degrees brings us back, if you do the math, to the time when Spain and Portugal came into what we knew at the time as the Aztec Empire, and destroyed them and took them over and took all of their writings, took all of their stuff, and then, of course, claimed it and turned them all into Christians, right? But turned one blood sacrifice into another. And so it deals with very, be careful. Eris is invasions as well. Now, I'm speaking on the spiritual point to be like, don't let your ego create a false Trojan horse to invade your soul's knowing. And there's a lot of that out there right now, right? Like people are so, gosh, you put out one person puts a story about something and they're on this team or they're on that team or they're part of this or they're part of that. It's like, just for one sec, like take a little breath and ask yourself first, am I doing this to my own self? Am I causing my own problems or I'm too afraid to really evolve here? And am I just too connected to my ego? This Mercury in Taurus is going to know, like, I'm not creating. So your wallet is a good example, right? So you can blame things on, especially with Pluto. We love to blame with Pluto, right? It's this outside thing. It's a tax. It's a tariff. It's a Pluto, right? But this Mercury in Taurus is like, whatever is going on, I have the ability and I already have the facts. And I'm exploring new facts too that give me more excitement than the fear of something to come and take something away from me. So the thing about Pluto and Aquarius is, oh boy, it conjures up the energy there of Uranus. That's Uranus's sign. And so you have to remember that with Pluto there, it's the great fear that something is going to take something away, because that's what happens to Uranus, right? His own sun takes him down, cuts his nutsack off into the ocean, and takes him down and takes over. And so, that's the thing about Aquarius is no matter what planet's in there, but if you get Pluto in there, you're afraid of, something coming out of nowhere, a big surprise that's going to rip something out of your life, or the world to go crazy, or this to not happen, or this that needs fixed, and you keep doubling down and there is no fix to it and you can't admit it yet. So this Taurus energy is saying, with Mercury in the square to Pluto, with the sun close to Uranus here, and in opposition to a full moon Scorpio that's in a yod to Jupiter and Chiron, it's like, just surrender here and go with the basics of like, I am amazing. I don't know what it looks like at the higher version of myself yet. Because anybody who says they know what their higher version of their self, value-wise, self-worth-wise, what they could create, we can only get little glimpses, but we don't get the whole picture. It's the excitement of getting to go create it. But if you're trying to create something that really is actually doing the opposite, meaning like it's not going to take you up more, it's not going to really, and honestly, there's questions on whether it's honest or not, or if it's really your truth. I mean, that's the stuff you have to say. This is the full moon that you say goodbye. I mean, I'll be honest. I really wish that Venus was out of its retrograde shadow, right? But it's not. It's not at its speed yet. At least as Venus is finishing this, when we get to the Venus trine Mars, they're both going to be out of their retrograde shadows, right? They're post shadows. So, this is good. But at this full moon moment, this full moon saying, hey, I know a lot of good things have been going on and changing. And if you haven't had good things going on and changing, I mean, this is the full moon where it's kind of like, okay, then you need to change. Right? How weird it's even conjunct Juno. That's retrograde there in Scorpio. We got Black Moon Lilith right there at 6 degrees as well of Scorpio. So this full moon's really hanging out with some really weird energy. Especially this kind of like triple down energy of like, I want this bad. Also, 22 degrees Scorpio can be one of the degrees that actually will double down and want to hold on to something, and sometimes even whatever it takes kind of energy. So it's about not getting lost into that right now, right? Because what I'm fearing for people is this idea of like desperation. Well, I already have this and I don't want to lose it, and it's the best I'm ever going to get. That's you undercutting yourself immediately. Desperation of, well, you know what? Like, this thing is not, I need money and this is what I'm going to do and at least I'll just do that. I was like, don't be desperate. This is the time to really see we are all going to together do this full moon, and there's going to be tons of crazy stuff this week and next week especially. And it's going to continue all year. But I'm just saying, like, this week, this full moon is going to bring on some wild shit and start to help us see what small little things we're going to have to determine how the world's going to look and how we're going to all have to find a way internally to pivot. And that's, you don't pivot out of desperation. You pivot to be ahead of the pack, to be ahead of what's going on. That's what Uranus is about. Now, that's the more modern ruler of astrology, right? So if you think about it, where are the planets going? What is about to happen? We have a lot that's still coming down the pipe here. So maybe this is just for those that follow astrology. Hey, you know what's coming up? This isn't about being, oh my God, in fear and desperation, and I got to pivot when it finally happens. Uranus only gives those energies the opposite of downwards or pull away or take out or disrupt in a negative sense into holy shit and smacking you in the light field and taking you to the highest level when you are actively understanding of what's ahead, using divination, using the spiritual understanding, and actually knowing that this is a time of like upping your ante of yourself, upping your value, upping your values about what is possible, and using all of the things you've learned over the last 7 years to truly go, this can come together, this can come together. I met this person, I met that person, this can come together. So this is about the ultimate collaboration within your soul. There's an amazing adventure that's opening up, one that's definitely going to turn the page, more than a page, turn the chapter, let alone probably begin the whole story of a whole new book by the time that Jupiter comes into Cancer next month, and we do have that Saturn in Aries that will be with Neptune in square. I mean, like, if you're in this kind of place, like, you have any unsurety about whether or not, especially if it's a relationship, or you have any unsurety about your financial aspect, it's like, okay, you've got to look at a whole different way. And that doesn't mean you have to go search for it. What I love about Jupiter and Gemini is you have all the facts. You already have all the things that you get to go explore with. You've already had the idea. The thoughts already came your way. The situation, like, and it also becomes that kind of basic of just like, keep it basic. Just like, okay, like, I'm good at this. Let me actually try to do this. There's this. We live in a world now where everything is connected. There's no excuse. I also look at this as the full moon as like, there's no more excuse to be with the bad relationship. There's no excuse to try and say this Venus retrograde relationship's really good. Right? Go back to 2017. Go back to what happened November of 2016 into this same time period, May of 2017 into June of 2017, right? Like, weird situations and relationships happen, and you can try and push it as long as you want, but next year, when that Venus retrogrades in Scorpio again and comes back into Libra, you'll deal with it in a very harsh way. So it's like, some people are going to just not want to hear it. But maybe they will with this Mercury and Taurus being like, hey, remember also the last time that we had the Venus retrograde in Aries 8 years ago was with Uranus in Aries. So it was like, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want. And it's going to work. It's like I'm hitting the lottery no matter what, even if I'm not going to pay attention to all this weird shit that's going on. So I think it's just going to be the simplicity of, hey, I'm not going to let my ego anymore continue to fall down this path of creating its own Trojan horse that is just going to be not a gift and making something into a gift that's not. Right? I mean, I think it's about understanding with Uranus here. It's like Uranus goes through the dirt as if it was like a filter, and it only picks up the pieces in the dirt that actually are gold, right? So think of it as kind of like somebody scanning on the beach, looking, an older person, retired, and they got their little metal detector, and they're like looking for watches or gold. Like, not much comes out of the sand. It's a lot of sand, but Uranus here is like, look at this, and especially in Taurus, only very few things come up of high value. All the things in the last 7 years that people in the collective and then in yourself that you thought was really cool or innovative or different, whatever maybe it was, it's not anymore, and you got to pay attention to it. But like, I think that this is reminding ourselves, like, hey, we all have big pivots to make, and that's something that we need to be positive about, not scared about. These are moments for us to go do our best stuff that we've ever done. But if you're going to do that and not pay attention to any of the weird relationship shit, if you tried to get it, like, because I know I've been there, I do readings, like, follow these Venus retrogrades. This Venus retrograde was not good for ingressing into new love, relationship energies. If weird shit came up and weird communications with Mercury that retrograded, but at the same time with all that stuff, and then of course Neptune being there, like, are you really not going to pay attention? Well, this Pluto square that's going to have Mercury coming square it, or this full moon Scorpio and Yod to Jupiter, and yachting over as well to that sextile between Jupiter and Chiron, right? That's making the quincunxes over to the moon. And it definitely will be like, are you really going to sacrifice and just sit here? Like, there's two versions of the sacrifice for Chiron. There's the, geez, well, you didn't get anything out of this. You went to battle, you got shot, you lost your immortality, and now Prometheus needs your liver. But you've sacrificed a lot. And it's kind of like people want to stay in that Chiron. Their ego wants to stay in that Chiron, and they don't want to look at that Jupiter like, hey, there's maybe a little bit of a better, basic situation that you could be doing. Like, it's very simple, but it's like, I don't want to have to sacrifice again, because it's really, then you have to sacrifice again. Then Zeus shows up and goes, all right, give your liver to Prometheus and make you immortal again, but I make you the head of all the centaurs, and you will be the guide to all the gods. Right? So this is also any of the light workers, spiritual people out there, like anybody who's really doing the work and being a guide, this is where, anything that really is getting in between that, or dare I say with Mercury square Pluto, or dare I say with a full moon in Scorpio, anybody who's jealous or would act jealous or doesn't allow you to be your full self, that's trying to hold you back. So I think that there's going to be, for not everyone, but people who have really gone into some of the most weirdest relationship situations, that you got to be honest with yourself. Like if you didn't pay attention since November to now, you're kind of doubling down into a really weird, scary kind of place that 18 months, from now, a little bit less, of course, it'll be more the fall of 2026 after Saturn, Neptune conjunction, all that stuff. It's not going to be friendly. I can tell you that. But I think overall, this full moon is really about empowering and allowing ourselves to not be so afraid of like what's possible in our lives, by upgrading and allowing that power to be used in areas that are of value. That if there's something that makes you feel like, well, I don't feel like this is really that great for me. Okay, that's fine. Then you don't feel it's great for you, then don't be doing any of it, right? Like this is definitely a time about not focusing on what's not working. It's about focusing on what you're so excited about, but making sure it's not part of the Deluluville, Saturn at the end of Pisces, right? Like, do you have a control over your subconscious, or are you just really wanting to self-implode this and do the same kind of pattern all over again? And with Neptune being there in Aries, right? Like we live in a world now where you can't just keep being in Delulu land. You just cannot just keep on being too empathetic. Now we need to be empathetic still, because there's going to be a very extreme lack of empathy around the world for a long time, for the next 15 years. But we still need to hold empathy, but it's like this whole going to where the extremes, to where you're now lost in space by yourself because you're too empathetic and you're too nice and you're too, well, I don't want to hurt them, or, you know, let me just get, it's like, no, we don't have time for that shit anymore. Especially, this is what makes this Saturn conjuncting Neptune in Aries a lot more powerful than Pisces, right? It's more of the buck stops here fully with you just giving away your energy, especially to things that have a lot of weird kind of things that have questions, to say the least, behind it, or are questionable, or energy that really doesn't value you fully. Like anybody that won't invest in you fully, why are they in your life? Because we're going to get that Mars that's going to be very happy. And I think this Venus is going to be very happy to trine Mars in Leo. That's following after it comes out of shadow. But that's after this full moon Scorpio. So this full moon Scorpio is eerie, because why did I use me in Jurassic Park running with a fucking full moon in one hand and a scorpion in the other? This Saturn at the end of Pisces, this full moon Scorpio, it really is this moment where it's like, are you really just going to keep running the same path and let something in? This is also very Chiron in Aries, Eris, right? Like allowing the Trojan host to come in. Like, no, the T-Rex is cool and nothing's going to happen. Like, you don't want to end up like this, because there's a lot of shocks coming. There's a lot of the whole world pivoting, a lot of where the biggest turns of the world are about to begin. And we just got here and we thought it was turning. It was just fucking getting prepared. The rudder was just making a little bit of noise, but the captain hasn't fucking jolted the whole shift, or the whole entire shift of the boat, right? And going, we're going port side fully. We're going starboard side fully, you know. And if you don't even know if left or right, which one is what, welcome to Jupiter Gemini. You need to have some facts, right? Especially with Saturn and Pisces, right? So that means if you don't know what port means and you don't know what starboard means, you don't know what side it is. I'll give you a little hint, since I was in the Navy. It was an easy way for me to always remember. Left side is port side, because it's only 4 letters. That was always the way I remembered when I was young in the Navy. Right? Port side is left. 4 letters. Port is 4. Starboard, right. That's the right side. But right when you think you're going port side, it's going starboard side. Right when you think it's going starboard side, it's going port side. So it's not about being afraid of that. Your career, money, relationships, all of that stuff right now, it all is going to go, and you know what? Instead of you freaking out, it's just like, okay, at least I know I was thinking it was going port side, but it's going starboard side. Okay, I just shift my energy to that way. We have to be willing to go through these wild, shifts. The whole astrology is about to go, what the hell? The T-Rex is coming out? Okay. And it's not about trying to be the lawyer and sit there and fucking sit in the bathroom and hide. You can't hide, Saturn Pisces, right? You can't hide. You're going to get eaten. Right? Don't be Jeff Goldblum and sitting there and being like, oh my gosh, let me try and let me save the kids. I'm going to get my flashlight. I'm going to be 2 Neptune and Pisces. That was the old way. And Saturn Pisces here. And I'm going to try and deflect him while running. No, now you're an idiot. I'm surprised he made it, but he did make it under the bamboo. Right? Or the little kids. They made it through, but that didn't go that well either, right? So it's about having that stable understanding and going, I'm willing to go up to the higher version of myself now. I'm not going to fuck around with this shit that's just, you have to mitigate any of the craziness by really going, Am I really allowing myself to just hold myself back by wanting to see something that's not going to work or not evolve or isn't evolving or doesn't have the capacity to evolve to continue to be part of this part of my life and this journey before the moment we've all waited for in our whole lives begins to finally open the door into the new world and see what the fuck this shit is? I mean, come on. Right? Like you'd be, I don't want to say you'd be an idiot at this point, but you know, get the dunce caps out because there's a lot of people right now that are willing to do that stupid shit. And the stupid shit would be, you know, the writing's on the wall everywhere. Okay? So it's kind of like, this is not to do, this is not to do, and everybody has to shift. This is not the time to be lazy and be like, well, you know, my job's fine. Is it? Come on. I don't even care what job you have. I mean, just already imagine a year from now. I've been an astrologer for a long time. Of course, people are going to still want astrology from people and so forth, so I'm not afraid of that ever. Astrologers, we have like the job that never goes away. But the way that it's going, do you think it's going to be about YouTube anymore? Come on. It's so, right, 2006 when Google bought it, and then we're in the same nodal transits of that. You think it's going to be TikTok? You think it's going to be any of that shit? When every iPhone starting in September and all the new Androids that come out in January are all going to be integrated with cheap ETs. It's like basically your mobile app is going to be a legacy, meaning the old system. Like, you really think that we're going to need cashiers, even if there's still cash with AI? Do you really think like they're going to need you to kind of sit there at a desk and be the front desk person anymore? You know, like the Fiverr CEO just came out and was like, yo, we're done. The only people that are on Fiverr now, they don't even do it. They have AI do it. That's how he knows. Right? So actually, when you hire somebody on Fiverr, you could be doing it yourself using the same AI that's available to the world. But you don't get it. So like that's a good example of like, no, everybody's got to make a pivot in their business and their personal relationships to understand what's coming here. And what the best thing that could come for all of us is allowing in this extreme moment that's about to come to the world in our lives, allow ourselves to pivot and be that. That's where the phoenix rises. The phoenix is only going to rise for those that are willing to see the truth and see this moment and see what needs to be created, and also not continue to do things in the same direction. Right? You've got to try things in a new way. You've got to try, and it's very hybrid, Uranus, very Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus energy as well, and transformational of this. Like, you've got to like, okay, take forms of what you do well and mix it with these new things. And Jupiter and Gemini, you got to learn about what is on the facts on the ground. What's the data saying right now? Where's all the money in the world? Where's all the VC money been in businesses? It's all gone into AI, right? Okay, like they're not, and it has to be things that have been built, meaning, oh, you have a good idea, but it hasn't been created yet? Well, sorry, there's no, for the last 2 years, venture capital does no longer give money, especially after the Silicon Valley Bank disaster. They don't give money to people who have ideas anymore. You have to have an idea that actually works and show it to the world. So I'm just here to get people to this understanding here that like, it doesn't have to turn into this. If anything, it could be kind of fun as you're going out and finding right now, kind of like, oh, this is on this adventure and I know this basic here, but you know, okay, like I have these skills and I can do that. You know, it's the story of Jupiter right now. I mean, like this is like what it should be interesting. It should spark your interest. You know, remember that Indiana Jones is a professor, but boy, oh boy, does he like to teach, but more so, he likes to go on the adventure himself and actually go get the artifacts himself and go see it for himself to get the facts straight. So, like you have to be doing the same thing. You just can't be in this, it's all going to be fine and everything's just going to be just normal. And no, it's not. I hate to be that person again, but it ain't going to be normal. There's no more normal. It's just completely defined in a new way that is coming. And this is the full moon to remind you that this is the end of the water and earth show, because this full moon is in Taurus with this moon in Scorpio. I mean, like, this is the end of that, right? The next new moon's in Gemini. The next full moon's in Sag, fire. And then we come into Cancer season. And then, of course, we're going to be coming into Uranus into Gemini then. And that'll actually be the last kind of like full moon in Capricorn, but there's no more Pluto there. And so it's almost like it was already over because Pluto left Capricorn, ain't coming back. So that'll be a water earth energy that'll be like, this is the standard now. No, it's not the place that it is anymore. Like the place to be is in the air and the fire. And that requires you to raise up to higher ethos on the higher levels and get closer to truly the true ether, right? So it means that no, you're not going to be, don't get too comfortable. Don't just right now, especially be like, you know what? Yeah, no, this is fine. No, it could be better. How can it be better? What can I put my resources emotionally into where I'm hoping for something? It reminds me when I was young. It's like, as guys, like you talk to people and you date and like you give energy out and you're like, well, they're not calling me back, but I still don't know why I still try. Like, what a waste of time. Or you could be in a relationship where you put everything in and there's not much that comes out. Like, what are you doing? Or you already know they're not going to commit fully. This is where you can't be stuck in that kind of like, well, time will tell. There is no more time will tell about things. Okay? So like this is this T-Rex dropping the, like, hey, the gate's broken. Pluto and Aquarius, right? Mercury's in Taurus there. The Raptors are out, like hello, but you're just gonna be like, nah, everything's fine. I'm just gonna wave the flashlight and see what happens. Like, no, this is not the time for that anymore. But I think it's really positive for those that are really aware of this moment and are very in tune to like your calling. And right now, there is no excuse for allowing with this North Node Saturn, which is still happening in Pisces. There's no excuses left anymore. That your spiritual responsibility knows how to filter things that are not in alignment with your soul's connection to spirit and that higher vibration that you have to reach. What's great about Uranus right now is that sextile that's been going on between Saturn and Uranus. Not the square like 2021 when I told you that it would be fucking shattered reality and that the experiment will go bad before the shot came out. Look what, come on. So this whole Saturn-Uranus transit's going to be about the COVID shot, one. And everybody's worst nightmare is coming true, right? That got it. But doesn't mean it's your worst nightmare of, there's going to be ways to figure that shit out if you're accepting of it, the truth. But I think that this is going to be where, you got to realize that, like, this is where if you have your shit together spiritually and cleaning out what is not part of your spiritual mission here, right? I think the hardest can be where Uranus and Taurus can make it look like it's going in the direction. But you're at the point now with this full moon, you're at the point now with where all these planets are, with Venus about to finally come out of shadow after this full moon and trine Mars and all of this new stuff coming in. You're at the point now where it's like there is, you could see it all, meaning like, okay, like it could be hard though, right? It could be like, well, I'm with this person and it makes me feel like I'm more in my spiritual alignment. Okay, that's nice. It may make you feel more, but are you on it fully? Like, what's still holding you back? That always is what happens. Is it bring Venus retrograde, especially in Aries, Pisces, always bring people in to really put you up into your face about where you're afraid of things. And it, it's always a relationship that every Venus retrograde relationship, if you're into a new one, it always teaches you something dramatic. But, what I see here is like, I don't know, like this underlying, like, people really not getting it yet. Wanting to turn a Venus retrograde kind of relationship into like, no, I don't care. I'm going to still make it happen and let the clay harden. It's like, well, is it going to last? Well, they're going to hold you back. My number one fear is seeing people be held back right now. By their own subconscious, sensitive, and too afraid of, things being taken away that they don't want to let go of, because really it's more of a fear of actually you going and creating actually the level of what you need, instead of, just turning it into kind of like, well, this is probably the best it's going to be in my life. It's like, come on. Going to be drastic moves though that have to start to take place, and honest truth that's going to come out. I mean, even with this Mercury and square to Pluto, like the world's going to get a headline here that's going to be massive in the way that the world changes a direction on Monday. I'm doing this on Sunday on the West Coast, so the day before. So this full moon, really does put us into some interesting territory, and it's got a lot of Uranus energy. It's got a lot of this Pluto energy that's attached to it. It's got this Jupiter Chiron sextile. There's going to be like a sacrifice too that somebody's going to have to make in the world. Like there's going to be some costs and there's going to be some great benefits, but you have to be willing to know that. And you have to be willing to really be responsible in order to move forward. And you have to do hard choices on cutting away things that aren't for your spiritual growth right now, in things of money, value, and relationships that are in order for you to move forward. Because right now, you already are seeing the misery that it will be if it's bad. You've already seen it, and you're in denial. Or it's been weird, and you're kind of smoothing it over. Like, I guess we went through it. It's like, you still haven't really got to the bottom with that Mercury there in Taurus, square Pluto, really to the bottom of what's going on. Like, and there's a lot of people out there who don't want to look at that truth. Especially when this is it. The gate's closing, right? Like the gate's closing and a new gate's opening. Just, this is the full moon that's literally like, it's like if we were on a spaceship, beep, 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 get in your pods, we're moving, the ship's moving. Fuck, okay. So don't start being like, oh yeah, like we don't want to take with us what's heavy weight, because this elevator is not going to allow us to take up to this higher frequency of our own self-worth and the things we want to manifest. This old way of doing things, or energy that's attached to us or that we're attached to, that literally keeps us away from actually rising into a better spot in our personal lives, especially where we keep sacrificing for someone else, but you're not getting anything either back. Mars and Leo, it's got to be happy with its own self and loving its own self. And that Venus and Aries it's about, okay, somebody that actually is true to themselves and somebody who is spiritually showing who they are, right? So the other thing too, we live in a world with this Venus now Neptune conjunction. That was the first time since the first time it happened on the last Neptune cycle, which was 1862. That just happened in the last couple of weeks. And so you have to remember that now it's very easy to see, people who are honest and easy to see. Like, it's going to be easy to see through people and see who's like hiding behind something, who's hiding behind a false ego, who's hiding between some kind of like weird rock and a hard place to try and be something else. And you don't want to be around that right now, or especially I really am putting my best out there to tell people, like, If you're in a relationship that was in that November period to now, and you just started it, or you revived one, I am giving my biggest blessings that the fallout will not be as bad as I know it will be. So, or you're just really wanting to Saturn at the end. You want to just sit in some old karmic relationship thing and watch it go to hell in a handbasket again. And you know what? Some of us, I guess, on this journey out here want to do that, and I have no judgment. But this alignment here is very clear now that Venus is in front of everything, and it's in shadow, and it's about to leave after this full moon, and it's headed towards Chiron. Oh, it can't be more clear than day. I mean, you know. Even though it doesn't seem like it is, but it is. All right, let's take a look at what the cards are for this full moon here. Do I need a basket for my hand? It's empty. And oh well, no. I was holding a moon and a scorpion. By the way, I did your next 10 years horoscope for your sun or rising sign. I did do a summary so you could see where I did pictures, and I also did the summary with it, but I also, of course, did the 8-hour video where I go so deep. It's only $20 if you want the full version. But on my Substack, which, by the way, thanks everybody making my Substack. For weeks it's been at the top of out of all things, world politics. I was just at the top of it again this week. I was like at the 44th, but we got all the way up to number 12 like 2 weeks ago. So I appreciate that. A lot of people really moved over to my Substack. Like I'm on there more than I am Instagram now or TikTok. Like that's more the future to me. It reminds me of MySpace, 2006 energy. But I'll put it up real quick while I'm shuffling this deck here. If you go to my Substack and you can go to my posts, right? Oh, here we go. Posts. Your astrology signs great big shift. The 10-year horoscope. So I go through this, and so Aries, right? So I go through Aries with a summary and then every picture, right? That's there. So you can click on it, and that's kind of like an overall. But if you want the actual video with all of it, it's on that link, but it's on my Substack, The Leo King. So I cover all 12 signs and a visualization for your rising and sun sign of like what's to come for the next decade. And that's with Uranus and Gemini and the Cancer, and with Neptune, Aries, and Pluto and Aquarius. And then, of course, all that's included in Hypergate if you join Hypergate. But if you want the traditional legacy of how I do things, of course, highvibe.tv. Of course, I'm moving in both directions at the same time because that's kind of how you have to be, a hybrid right now. Like I'm moving into the future while maintaining the legacy. Because people are not ready to catch up yet. And now we have a pope who's trying to scare the world. He already scares the world about astrology and all that stuff. And then now he's going to scare people about AI. Like, great. Okay. So, that's kind of an interesting space, right? That means they don't want astrology AI out there. Why? What is it going to find? That's the question you should be asking yourself. Right. All right. What do we got here? We got the star card. I love this because I feel like, you know what? This, like I said, I really feel like so much has been cleared. But whatever is this last stuff, because the star card stopped. It's the Aquarius card. And we got Pluto here, but it's like, it stopped, right? It's after the Tower card. It's like, okay, like shit. What's the divine saying here? And the star card, it ain't moving yet into its life yet, where it's going to move next. It's still pausing on something. And I think that this pause here is like, well, everything's pretty much clear. I feel naked and free. Like everything's cleared out. Oh, what's that last little thing here? What's that? And it's a big thing. It's a Venus thing. Are you not pivoting with your business, your job, or whatever? especially if relationship that came in during the slowdown from that late October into November all the way up till now, right? Like, and you're just not paying attention. We got a 4 of Pentacles reverse that backs this one up. So it's like, you know what? This is where it's saying just don't have such a hard, just closed space. Like, you know, like you got to lighten up and let things in, right? The 4 of Pentacles just does not want to let go of that coin, wants to be stubborn. And I get it. It knows the value of something. Although this is saying you don't know the value, right? So it's almost kind of like you're like, well, no, everything's going pretty good, but you know, I don't know. Especially when you have questions on something of value. I can tell you whether it's Uranus, I don't care what planet's in Taurus. Taurus always knows. Scorpio always knows. It always knows what's the good shit, what's the bomb, and what's not. It better be the bomb. The fucking bomb. Not, You know, so if it's not the bomb, it's pretty clear. That's what's got to go. So I appreciate you all very much. I thank you so much for supporting me, of course, here on my YouTube for 13 plus years. I mean, I'm 14, I think, because this one was 2011. But of course, being on Hypergate.ai, and especially the people that were on Astro Mystic, the beta of that, but now we're in the alpha, and we've got so many updates on it now. And then, of course, High Vibe TV is blowing up, and the apps, of course, have been, you know, I started the Leo King app 14 years ago in April, and, you know, it's turned into a full social network on its app, and all the videos and the live stream and all that stuff, and the schools and everything, and it's just so awesome to see where it is. So I appreciate everybody in the community we built and shown the way, and we're showing the way again if you want to be part of that or not, or if you want to stay in the back in the legacy and be on some sort of old school Patreon thing. Have fun. Don't know what to tell you, but that's definitely gonna not be around much longer, and a lot of things are not. So I hope this helped. Much love to you all very much. Have a good full moon in Scorpio, because the ghost is out that's going to find you and surprise you, even though I don't think it should be much of a surprise if you've been not paying attention. And then if you try to, you know, bury that ghost or try to ignore it, it's going to turn into something else. I appreciate you all. Much love. Bye-bye.
Attention, please.
Yo. Okay.
Attention,